Hi, I'm Arvelyn Lewis and I sell real estate. And I want to talk for just a few minutes. I won't take up a lot of time today about the various ways, some of them anyway, because just because I'm a broker doesn't mean I know them all. But I do want to share with you some of the ways that you can make money in real estate. Now, I have had people say to me that they are afraid of real estate or not really sure how real estate works, or they are intimidated by the process that is involved in real estate. And I'll say to you that, in my opinion, one of the major reasons that people are so intimidated by real estate and its ability to make money for them has a lot to do with the mortgage industry crash. 2007, 2008, the mortgage industry crashed largely because the real estate industry, sorry, the mortgage industry was passing out money to people who could basically pass the breathing test. If you were able to breathe, they would give you money to buy real estate. And now the laws have changed and you have to be breathing, have a job or a good sound source of income. So all of those things that caused the crash of the mortgage industry, they're not a part of our lives now. So um, you don't really have to be afraid of the mortgage industry nor real estate. So I want to talk about that just a bit. Um, Tell you this first, real estate is so important that it's basically woven into forever because people have kind of gotten to be accustomed to living in a covered place, having a roof over their head, having walls to protect them from the elements, to protect them from lions, tigers, and bears. So, as long as people are interested in being protected and living indoors, real estate is going to be a good, sound investment, right? I mean, really, don't you personally like living inside? So keep this too in mind that you're going to be paying a mortgage. As long as you live indoors, you'll be paying a mortgage, whether it's your mortgage or somebody else's mortgage. There's a mortgage being paid for the most part. It may not be the property that you own, and if it is, you're paying someone else's mortgage. It's just that simple. So it might as well be yours. So let's talk about it. That's one way, renting. But in Proverbs 31, verse 16, it says that the woman considered a field and she bought it and started planting a vineyard. And I'm paraphrasing because, that's what I do. But that's how important land and real estate and ownership, it's actually in the Bible. That's how important it is. Here's another example of just how important real estate is. In the Constitution, actually, it's not even in the Constitution, but our founding fathers of this country in the United States, the only people who could vote were men who owned property. Yeah, that's how true. That's how important real estate is. You couldn't even vote in this country if you didn't own real estate. So it's pretty important to earn and own real estate. Um, it's part of the ability to prosper. Generational wealth is part of our land. That's what it was used for. In order to survive, we had to have land because that's where the corn and the cotton and all of the things that we use still to this day, they're coming from the land. That's how important real estate is. So let's talk about it. Let's get to know what's part of real estate ownership. So if part of owning real estate back to slavery, it was part of how we survived all the way back to slavery. Everything was done, and we needed slaves to monitor the field or help it to grow. Um, and then it grew and changed to a place where don't sell grandmama's house became part of our culture. Don't sell grandmama's house. Did anybody ever wonder? Did you ever wonder why that became such a saying? Don't sell grandmama's house? Is it because there was so much involved in getting that house, or even more involved in keeping that house? That's how important that house was, that you just don't sell grandmama's house. So now we have come to a place where it's not as complicated to own a house, but generationally, it's almost a curse because we have not learned how important it is to actually own real estate, own a house. And once we've acquired the house, we've probably come to a place where we don't move from that house. I have a lot of clients that say on their first purchase, this is my forever house. And I go, no, don't say that, don't say that. Because the first house you get should only be the first house you get. And you move on to the next one and you start to become generationally wealth with the more purchases that you get. I'll share with you my first house. When I moved to Georgia, I'm from California. That's where I was born and raised. So when I moved to Georgia and I bought my first house, I was probably around 28. And honestly, I really didn't know what I was doing. And the realtor didn't really give me a whole lot of education. And as a realtor myself, we kind of just take the information and get you into what you tell us you want. But when I teach a class, I go into much more depth about how important it is to buy in the right place and all of these various things. But for me, when I bought my very first house, it was basically the next thing to do as a grown up. I didn't really understand what I was doing when I made that purchase. It was just the next thing to do as a grown woman. That's what I did. And so it wasn't until I actually sold my house 8 years later that the light bulb finally went off. Because this is what happened. 8 years later, into owning my house, when I sold it, I paid off the mortgage that was existing. I paid off my student loans, and I brought around $30,000 to my next purchase as a down payment. And now $30,000 doesn't really sound like a lot, but when you consider my first house cost about $74,000, that's here in Georgia. And I had left California partly because I knew I needed to buy some real estate, and I wouldn't get anything for $74,000 in California, not a darn thing. As a matter of fact, I think the houses were going for around 300,000 in the Los Angeles area, Southern California, when I left, and I believe that was the early 90s. Yeah, early 90s. But back to fast forward, when I bought my house, I don't remember what year it was, but it's more than 25 years ago that I bought my first house. And it was around 74,000 when I bought it 8 years later. I paid off the mortgage, the student loans that I had, and I had money toward the down payment on my next home. And that was when the happened for me. And it was after that that I became a real estate broker myself, because clearly there is money in owning real estate. After living in that house for 8 years, I paid off everything and had more to go. So basically, it was living there free for the whole 8 years. Free. Okay, well, I need to do that again and duplicate it, is what I kind of learned. And that's what it should be when you're considering buying a home for the first time, is that it's an investment where I can actually put my coins to work for me instead of me working for my coins. That's what the purpose of real estate is. It's an investment. It's being a good steward over the monies or the funds that you are going to work for. You're doing something that is actually going to be a return with your money. That's one way. Now, as a real estate agent, that's another way that you can make money because when you are helping others to buy and sell their property, they pay you a commission. Now, I'm not going to go very deep into that because that's a whole bunch of class work that you have to get to understand how, as a real estate agent, you make money in real estate. But that's it. You can sell residential real estate. You can also sell commercial real estate. That's real estate agent in a nutshell. Then there is, for me, another way that I made money in real estate. I bought into new construction. I did. On the way out, this particular community sold their last unit in this community, and I bought the very last one that they had for that community. And my intention when I signed the contract for that community was to hold it. And when we talk about holding real estate, that's where you take it today and you hold it, usually with a tenant in place for however many years until your investment matures. So that maturation may happen in 2 years, 5 years, it could be 10 years, depends on what your goal is for that property to do. Usually, people go in with their set number that they're going to hold it for 5 years, or they may have a set number or a dollar amount that they are intending for that property to produce for them over that number of time, whatever that time may be. And usually, they are receiving a monthly rent that if you are holding a mortgage on that property, the rents actually pay for the mortgage. Well, that was my intent for that particular investment. But what happened with it is by the time I closed on it, the value had increased by $25,000 on that one unit. And I thought, well, shoot, let me just go ahead and cash out now. I didn't really have a strong intent or a strong, goal because I was just testing out the ability to make money on new construction. And so within 2 months, for the time that I had it in holding and the time that I actually closed, it was only 30 days, but it took another 30 days to close the next person that bought it, and I made $25,000. That was pretty easy. 2 months. I think that was a pretty good deal. Fortunately for me, it was prior to the mortgage crash because it would have taken a much longer time to appreciate and see that money come back to me because that property value dropped substantially when the mortgage industry crashed. So I made my money and got on down the road on that one. But this is another thing that sometimes people are doing with new construction is within the first few properties that are sold in a new construction community, they buy one of the first 10, 20 units of that community and they hold it until the community matures and is fully built out. Sometimes they hold it vacant. And sometimes they hold it with a tenant in place. And once the community has fully built out, and the properties have increased on a monthly basis. The last time I checked with new construction, they were increasing like $2,000 per month. So this was the thing that they said, 2,000 per month or 2,000 every 4 houses sold. So if it's increasing for every 4 houses that are sold $2,000, it doesn't really take that long for you to see a huge dollar increase on new construction, right? So that's one way people do it. They buy it on the front end when they first start breaking ground on a new construction community. That's what holding is. Holding can be where you're allowing someone else to live in the property and you're holding it for the property to mature or season and cash in or cash out, as they say, when the property has matured to your desired dollar. Another thing that we do in real estate is flipping. So when I first started real estate, they were high on flipping being an illegal thing. And really, what it was a lack of understanding of what flipping really was. Because what was going on when I first got into the real estate market or selling real estate was the mortgage industry was starting to catch fire. Right. Okay. And there was a lot of appraisal fraud that was going on at that time. So someone would be in possession of a property, they go out and buy it today, and they then go and find their particular appraiser to determine that the value of this property is whatever number they wanted to affix to it, and then they would flip that property and sell it to someone else for that number. That was fraudulent. It wasn't the flipping, it was the appraisals that were going on and changing the values without really doing anything to increase or improve the property. That was what was illegal, because flipping is quite a legal thing to do. So we have people that go, and I'm one of them, that go to the county foreclosure sales. They have them in pretty much every state, I'm sure, and it's usually done at your county courthouse. Anyone who's going through a foreclosure likely will have that foreclosure happen at the courthouse steps, and the procedures and exactly how they're going to do it in any particular state may be slightly different. But for Georgia, it happens every first Tuesday, and they in an open call, $5, $10, $20, that just an auction on a property. And you can go and buy that property, and whatever condition you happen to collect it in, you go and make some improvements on it, and then you resell it for a greater dollar amount than you bought it. Got it? There is also the opportunity to acquire it by wholesaler. So someone goes out and they knock on the door and they say, "Hey, I'll buy this property from you." And, "Oh, you still owe on it, blah, blah, blah." And, they make that deal. And then they're the wholesaler that's in the middle between the buyer and the person who was about to lose it or whatever that situation was. So the person in the middle is the wholesaler. Then you have others who are able to go and knock on the door. They find out who's about to foreclose. They knock on the door and say, "Hey, I'll rescue you from this situation. Here's $10,000 or whatever a good number is for that person that's about to lose." And then they acquire the house for whatever the amount of the money that they need to clear or cure the overage or the amount that's actually about to be foreclosed on. And that person goes away, and then it's your house. I'm teaching you, I'm giving you some education. So stay with me. I've got a few more things I'll tell you about. There is also the opportunity to get a tax deed. So someone who's not paid their taxes, you go to the courthouse and you buy those tax liens. Yeah, tax liens are for sale at the courthouse. And if you've bought that tax lien, you've got the opportunity to make some money. The person who owns it may still live there, and you just hold that tax lien, just hold on to it until they're ready to sell, and then you collect your money. It's done all the time. It's called the tax lien sale. That's a way to make money. Then there's still the commercial real estate that you might be able to do some business sometimes. And this is one that's becoming more popular because so many people are being displaced as the property values are going up and rents are going up, and they're going up to very uncomfortable numbers, very uncomfortable. So people are having to store their properties, and they're homeless. So storage facilities are becoming a great thing to buy into in order to store people's stuff. So a thing to think about. Then you've got nursing home facilities, and I know I've had people that come to me, they're buying a specific type of home to set up no nursing home facilities. They set up nursing home facilities. And once they've set it up and they've got it running, then they sell that facility. It's a business at that point, and they just sell it to someone that knows how to run it. Same thing with children's homes. They buy the home, it has to be a certain specification. They buy the home, they set it up for a children's fostering situation. You put the staff in place, and now you sell it. It's a business because the county will pay for the children to be fostered in this home, whatever that monthly stipend for the children. You set up that business, you sell the business to someone who can run it, and that's a way to make money in real estate. Yeah, it's business. That's how we're using real estate. There are so many different ways. Airbnb, people are buying homes, they set them up to be an Airbnb where people come in, they come in for a week stay, a month stay, and boom, they're out of there. Nursing, traveling nurses are looking for places to stay. I know people who rent out a room in their house for traveling nurses, and they pay the mortgage just on the traveling nurses. Good money there, very good money. But you can also buy a home, same purpose, kind of like an Airbnb, but your traveling nurses, they just want to be comfortable in the places that they go. And the companies set up are paying them for wherever they go. So there are lots of ways to make your money work for you instead of you working for your money in real estate. And I'm just giving you a few things to think about, just a few. Call me when you're ready. I'm Arvelyn Lewis, and I sell real estate. I'm in the Metro Atlanta area.